I just want to start off by saying, pain does not exist in this dojo, does it?
No, Sensei!
Yes, guys, as you may have guessed, we're talking about Cobra Kai today. Hey everyone, Black Cat Loner here, and today I'm going to do something a little different. This was an idea I've had for a while now, and now it's here. Anyway, welcome to the first installment of what I like to call Black Cat Binge Watch, where I get to binge watch selected TV shows. And first up, we're going to be taking a look at the first 5 episodes of the 6th and final season of Cobra Kai, the sequel series to the Karate Kid film franchise that streams on Netflix. Because of the writer's strike last year, and also to distance it from the new Karate Kid movie that's set to come out next summer, Netflix decided to break up this season into 3 5-episode parts, with part 1 featuring the first 5 episodes just recently dropping on Netflix, and that will be followed by part 2 on November 15th, ironically the same day Netflix is streaming the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight, and part 3 airing sometime in early 2025 for a total of 15 episodes. Before we begin, a quick recap of what happened last season. After Miyagi-Do's defeat in the All-Valley tournament to Terry Silver and Cobra Kai, Daniel and Johnny get help from Daniel's old arch-nemesis Chosen to take down Silver. Along the way, Silver brings in Kim Daeun, the granddaughter of his and Kreese's old sensei, along with a group of dangerous senseis. Also aiding Daniel and company in their fight is another reformed opponent of Daniel's, Mike Barnes, who saw a successful furniture business destroyed by Silver. On the home front, Johnny learned that Carmen is pregnant, and vowing to be a good father, he gets Miguel and Robbie to patch things up, and what better way than to let them fight. Everything comes to a head when Johnny, Chosen, and Barnes decide to raid Silver's compound. Chosen is seriously wounded in his fight with Silver, while Johnny barely survives his fight with the senseis with the help of Barnes. Meanwhile, the Miyagi-Do kids, with the aid of Tori, who was being tormented by Cobra Kai following her calling out Silver for bribing the refs at the All-Valley tournament, break into the Cobra Kai dojo in an attempt to steal the closed-circuit camera footage that would expose Silver's crimes. Despite interference from Cobra Kai and Kim Daeun, the kids are successful in uploading the security footage to YouTube. Silver arrives at the dojo, wounded and weakened after his fight with Chosen, and he and Daniel engage in a one-on-one battle, where Daniel easily defeats Silver using the Quicksilver method that Silver taught him in Karate Kid 3, and finished him off with a crane kick. After Silver's defeat, the Cobra Kai students disavow him and Silver and is arrested, thereby ending Cobra Kai. For now. And where was Kreese during all of this? He was in jail, where he had been since Silver framed him for assaulting Stingray. However, he was able to fake his death and escape from prison, vowing revenge. So this part of Season 6 is going to focus on the kids' preparation for the Sekai Takai, a worldwide karate tournament. So since Cobra Kai also qualified for the tournament, will it return in some way? Will Kreese pop up in some way? Let's find out together. After all, you don't want to watch the Olympics, do you? You want to watch Cobra Kai. But first, if you haven't seen the episodes yet, be warned. There will be spoilers. Everyone ready? Here we go. Episode begins with everyone still celebrating the defeat of Cobra Kai and Silver's arrest. In fact, during the cold open, Daniel is gleefully watching as the Cobra Kai signage is being thrown in the dumpster. Then it's back to training for the Sekai Takai, but there's some inner conflict in Miyagi-Do over teaching methods, which leads to Johnny challenging Chosen to a fight, which Chosen accepts. Of course, Daniel is horrified and tries to talk Chosen out of fighting Johnny, and when Daniel does, there's a nice homage to Karate Kid 2, where Chosen is trying to break a really thick piece of wood, which was identical to the scene where Sato was doing the same exact thing when Miyagi goes to make peace with him. We also learn that Chosen is still upset over his loss to Silver, and Kumiko never responded to his drunken voicemails from last season. Meanwhile, Robbie and Miguel go on the most awkward double date ever with Tori and Sam, respectively. By the way, Tori is now training with Miyagi-Do after leaving Cobra Kai. The four also spend the episode trying to recruit Kenny into Miyagi-Do, which also leads to Robbie's rematch with Kenny's older brother. Remember they fought when they were both in juvie in Season 3? Kenny was disillusioned after the Cobra Kai fallout last season, and it takes a pep talk from Kenny's brother to persuade Kenny to join Miyagi-Do. While this is happening, Johnny gets a cryptic text from someone saying to meet him in the forest and using the Cobra Kai motto, Cobra Kai never dies. When I first saw that text, I actually thought that it was going to be Kreese texting him. I'm sure I'm not the only one who thought this. As it turns out, it was Stingray who sent the text. He actually repurposed the Cobra Kai name and recruited a bunch of little kids supposedly to teach them karate, but it looks more like he's running a daycare. I mean, what sane parent in their right mind would allow this? But anyway, Stingray attempts to coax Johnny into reclaiming the Cobra Kai brand, but he refuses. Between the exchange with Stingray and the fact that his Eagle Fang dojo building had been demolished, Johnny decided to train the students under the Miyagi-Do name, but he still fights Chosen, even though we don't see it. And the episode ends with Kim Dae-eun training her students in South Korea when, lo and behold, who shows up but Kreese? How the hell did he get out of the country without US Marshals finding out? Was he using his military training? I'm sure we're going to come back to this later on. Kreese is reunited with his old sensei, Master Kim, who's pretty spry for a 100-year-old man, and proposed to train the students for the Sekai Dakai, but Master Kim isn't having it because of what happened with Silver last season. "Your incompetence is why I'm still alive," he rants. Sounds like a Bond villain. But when Kreese bragged about how one of his students, Johnny, beat 5 of Master Kim's students, Master Kim gives Kreese another chance, but only if he proves himself by going into the jungle to retrieve his lost dagger. He finds the dagger but is attacked by a cobra, which causes Kreese to have hallucinations of Silver and Johnny, whom Kreese fights and kills. Of course, Kreese ultimately succeeds in getting the dagger and brings it back to Master Kim, along with the head of the cobra. Master Kim allows Kreese to train the students for the Sekai Dakai. Meanwhile, the kids begin looking into colleges where they run into former Cobra Kai member Kyler, who is trying to get into a fraternity. Miguel, Hawk, and Dimitri witness Kyle being hazed, which of course leads to a big fight, where Kyler and the Miyagi-Do kids make short work out of an entire group of frat boys. And Johnny realizes he has to get a real job after a water pipe breaks in Carmen's apartment, and since being a Miyagi-Do sensei doesn't pay anything, he winds up getting a job at LaRusso Auto Group. Not too much going on this episode except for Kreese and the frat fight. Episode starts out with everyone at Carmen and Johnny's baby shower, where it's revealed that Carmen is having a girl. And there's a little nod to Lethal Weapon 2, where Daniel receives a mysterious package that appears to be ticking, only to have it be a prank where the package explodes, covering Daniel in paint that's supposed to look pink but actually looks a little purplish. So it was either paint or someone had a leftover Grimace shake from last year. I've heard the memes about the Grimace shake killing people and turning them purple. I mean, I drank 2 of them last year and I had no ill effects. Anyway, enough comedy. The episode mainly focuses on Kreese taking an interest in one of Kim Dae-eun's troublesome students. While getting them to do hard labor, Kim's top student attacks the troublesome student, which leads to Kreese's lesson: only through pain does a champion reveal himself, as the rebel makes short work of the top student and steals his patch. Kreese tells the student that the only way to beat an opponent with heart is with heartlessness. Meanwhile, back at Miyagi-Do, everyone is concerned that Sam and Tori have lost their edge in terms of fighting each other goes. So Johnny and Devin scheme to invite the two over to Devin's house for a slumber party, which at first doesn't go well, but it leads to probably the most heartfelt scene between the two, as they both atone for everything they've done to each other in the past. But the real meat of this episode is when Daniel stumbles onto an old chest that belonged to Mr. Miyagi, where he learns some startling truths, such as the fact that Miyagi was involved in a robbery and assault in the past. This pretty much causes Daniel to question everything he's ever been taught, not to mention he feels betrayed by the one person he looked up to the most. And it's revealed that the Sekai Takai is being held in Barcelona, Spain, and Miyagi-Do is shocked to find out that only 6 members will be allowed to go. And this will be the last time we will see Chosen for this part of the season without much explanation. Hopefully he'll be back in part 2. With Chosen gone and the kids needing more intense training, who are Daniel and Johnny gonna call? Well, not the Ghostbusters, but would you settle for the bad boy of karate himself, Mike Barnes? As far as training goes, Barnes comes across as a drill sergeant and reveals that he almost fought in the Sekai Takai, if not for, well, Karate Kid 3. As expected, the main 4, Robbie, Sam, Tori, and Miguel make the cut, and Daniel's son Anthony loses to Kenny, who gives him a bloody nose and shatters his self-esteem. However, Johnny doesn't believe that Devin was getting a fair deal, so he goes to confront Barnes at his furniture workshop and literally kicks his ass. After the confrontation, Barnes agrees to be more fair to the students by having a game of capture the flag for the remaining 4 contenders: Hawk, Dimitri, Devin, and Kenny. At one point, Kenny looks like he was going to be the first one back, but in reality he was running to the bathroom, but he didn't make it in time. Looks like someone earned his brown belt, Johnny remarks. Despite being praised by Barnes for catching a chicken earlier in the episode, wait, when did this become Rocky? I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot, you know. Kenny doesn't make the cut, and he blames Anthony for spiking his water as revenge for getting beaten by Kenny. In reality, Devin stole an overweight kid's laxatives. By the way, that overweight kid was actually the kid that Barnes christens Muscles, and she spiked Kenny's water. Now, if Johnny found out about that, and it probably will come out in part 2, he might come to regret going to bat for her for Barnes. And Devin does get the flag and becomes the 5th person on the team, which leaves Dimitri and Hawk to fight it out for the last flag. Their fight is mainly fueled by the fact that Hawk decided to keep his college options open following the frat fight back in the 2nd episode, which pisses off Dimitri because he wanted Hawk to follow him to MIT. Hawk, racked with guilt, loses to Dimitri, the second time he lost to Dimitri in the series, and Dimitri shocks everyone by coming back with the last flag and becomes the last person selected for the Miyagi-Do team. With the teams all set, Miyagi-Do now has to choose both a male captain and a female captain. So that means Robbie and Miguel will battle each other for male captain, while Sam and Tori battle it out for female team captain. However, everything changes when Tori's mom dies, and Tori goes radio silent, ignoring texts from a concerned Robbie, which takes him out of his A game. When the day of the fights approach, Daniel agrees to referee Robbie and Miguel's fight, while Johnny agrees to referee Sam and Tori's fight. But everyone, especially Robbie, is worried that Tori wasn't going to show up. Just as Miguel is about to win the match, Tori shows up in her gi ready to fight, and Robbie manages a massive come-from-behind victory, and he gets the male team captain spot. Then Sam and Tori fight it out, Tori getting a little too aggressive at one point. Then Amanda gets a call from the hospital looking for Tori and tells Daniel to stop the fight. Tori finally tells everyone about her mother's death and she quits Miyagi-Do, which leads to another blow-up between Daniel and Johnny, who told Daniel that he should have let Tori fight because that helped him get over his mother's death. Johnny also reveals that Amanda told him about the revelation in regards to Miyagi and rubs it in Daniel's face, to which Daniel pops him in the nose. Johnny, who knows that he struck a nerve and that Daniel is not in his right mind, says he's only there for the kids, but after the Sekai Takai, they're done. After that, Sam is made female team captain by default, and Hawk joins the team to replace Tori. However, as he's putting the bandana on Sam, Daniel runs back to Miyagi's chest, where he finds a similar headband, still stained with blood, indicating that Miyagi had fought in the Sekai Takai. That's another thing Miyagi lied to him about. In the first movie, Miyagi told him that he had no experience with karate tournaments. But enough of that, off to Barcelona, where the Miyagi-Do team see 3 members of the new Cobra Kai team led by Kreese and Kim Dae-un. This is the first time that Daniel and Johnny have seen Kreese since he broke out of jail. I mean, seriously, where are those US Marshals? At the beginning of the episode, Kreese managed to sneak back into America with no trouble to try to bring Tori back to Cobra Kai. But Kreese is not the only surprise awaiting Miyagi-Do at the Sekai Takai. Everyone's shocked to learn that the 4th Cobra Kai member is none other than Tori. And with that, we leave you with Kreese's ominous, "Let the games begin." An okay start to the final season, not as strong as the previous seasons for a show that has been awesome from start to finish, but it did give us stuff to build on for part 2. What we know about part 2 is that the main event is going to be the Sekai Takai. Also, Daniel will probably uncover more secrets about Mr. Miyagi. Johnny and Carmen will probably have their baby. The US Marshals will come and take Kreese away. I know that last part was wishful thinking on my part. And maybe even the return of Terry Silver? But anyway, guys, see you in November. I mean, you'll see Johnny, Daniel, and company in November. I just want to start this off by saying that this week, my channel has finally hit a milestone that I've been unable to reach in my almost 2 decades on this site. I have officially hit 400 subs on YouTube. Thanks so much, and let's keep this going. And of course, I have a brand new PNG image, courtesy of the AI art app, GenCraft, again, not sponsored, which I debuted in the Cobra Kai video. The main reason for the design is because it's summer, hence the Yankees hat, because summer means baseball just as much as it means girls in bikinis. But enough of my dirty old man monologue. Now we're up to the main event. This story is a true story set during my junior year of high school, during the mid-90s. Before the internet, before my transformation into a cartoon cat, I went on my first real adventure, a class trip to Puerto Rico. And since this episode is called Back to Paradise, I call this story Finding Paradise. Everyone ready? Here we go. Summer has arrived at last, and with summer comes hot weather, trips to the beach, girls in bikinis, and good times. Of course, there was one year where summer sort of came early for me, and it happened in the spring of 1996. I was in my junior year of high school, and for 10 days in April, I went with my Spanish class on a trip to Puerto Rico. It was a Thursday when we left our high school to go down to JFK International Airport in New York City. And also of note, the trip to and from Puerto Rico marked the only times that I was on an airline flight to date. The flight down there took about 6 hours, and when we landed at San Juan International Airport, it was pouring rain. We checked into our hotel and got our room assignments. Since I was one of 3 guys, excluding my Spanish teacher's husband, that were on the trip, we were assigned to one room, while the girls were split up 3 to a room. As far as dinner goes, we were within walking distances of McDonald's, Burger King, Subway, and other assorted fast food restaurants. Since Puerto Rico is still U.S. territory, as opposed to being a foreign country, it was very likely that they would have the same things that we do. Our first full day in Puerto Rico was a day of leisure. Most of the attractions in the area were closed that day due to it being Good Friday. We went out to breakfast at another hotel and took an afternoon trip to find the Hard Rock Cafe that was located in Old San Juan. After that, we went to the beach that was right across the street from our hotel and went for a dip in the Atlantic Ocean. That night, I got to roam the streets of San Juan by myself because there wasn't really anything we could have done as a class, like go to a dance club, because I would have been the only one that would have been able to get in because I was 18 at the time, which as far as I know to this day is still the legal drinking age in Puerto Rico, unless that changed recently. And nearly all of my classmates were 16 or 17. Later that night, 4 of my classmates didn't come back on time, and my Spanish teacher started to worry. So I went out looking for them with my Spanish teacher's husband to look for them, and lo and behold, my missing classmates were on their way back, and from the looks of them, they were drunk. And while drinking on the trip was a no-no, and not just because of the law, that didn't stop anyone from doing so. The previous night's activities behind us, we went to the Yunque rainforest, which was about an hour away from San Juan. It was really humid that day, but the forest was beautiful. We walked around and went for a dip in a stream they had there. It was nice, but it was kind of rocky, so we had to be careful that we didn't get banged up on the rocks. After that, we went to Luquillo Beach, one of the most famous beaches in Puerto Rico, for a little while before we went back to San Juan. Apart from the fact that I had to hunt down a flower vendor to buy a flower for one classmate to give to a girl on the trip, who obviously was not interested in him, that night passed by uneventfully. The next day was Easter, and while my Spanish teacher went to church with her family, we stayed in the hotel until we went to an old Spanish fort while on our way to Old San Juan. And here's where one of my adventures on the trip truly began. We were put into groups and we looked in the stores. We were planning to meet up at the Hard Rock Cafe afterwards. I went off to look at some stuff, and the next thing I knew, everyone was gone. Since I was under the impression that they were planning to meet up at the Hard Rock Cafe, I decided to try and find my way there. I walked around for what seemed like hours, and I kept asking for directions to the Hard Rock Cafe. I'm not sure if some of the people I came across understood me or not, but the more I kept looking, the more I kept getting lost. In the end, I went to a Ponderosa steakhouse that just happened to be there at the time, and I had lunch there, being that I still had some time left before I had to meet the rest of my group, assuming I could find them. And as fate would have it, I eventually found our tour bus parked at the nearby park. I ended up waiting for everyone there, and about 20 minutes later, the rest of my class came back and we went back to the hotel. Our last night in San Juan was capped off with another trip to the beach and then going out to a fancy restaurant before going home to pack up. The next morning, we headed for our next stop, the city of Ponce, the other major city in Puerto Rico. We went sightseeing for a little while and went shopping as well. Shortly after that, we went to our next hotel in nearby Parguera, but not before we stopped off at a Spanish-American War Memorial on the way there. Parguera was pretty small compared to San Juan. It was a dock town. Our hotel in Parguera was located right on the waterfront and was a lot bigger than the hotel we stayed at in San Juan. It had its own dock, complete with boat tours and a gift shop located in the courtyard along with the pool. The only thing really of note that happened on our first night there was that my Spanish teacher had a birthday for her youngest daughter and wanted everyone to be there. Next morning we went to another beach which was on the Caribbean coast, and we spent a few hours there swimming, walking around, and having lunch there as well. Then when we got back to the hotel and were getting ready to charter a boat for a snorkeling trip we were going on that afternoon, I saw my Spanish teacher's husband talking to this really beautiful girl. And at the time, I thought she was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. She was from North Carolina and was on vacation in Puerto Rico with a friend's family. And as much as I wanted to spend some time with her getting to know her, I had to go with my class and get my snorkeling gear for the trip. I would definitely see her later that day. We made the boat and we headed into the Caribbean. And I gotta tell you something, if I thought snorkeling was gonna be easy, it actually isn't. For one thing, whenever I went into the water, I kept getting salt water in my mouth because my mouthpiece kept popping out on me. And then there was the fact that I almost didn't get back in the boat. It took 2 people to pull me back on board. I guess I wasn't in that good of shape back then, so I ended up spending the rest of the time on the boat. When we returned to the dock, we ate dinner at the hotel restaurant, and then we went on another boat ride, this time to Phosphorescent Bay. Phosphorescent Bay is so called because it seems like it glows in the dark at night. It looked pretty cool, especially when you stuck your head in the water and pulled it out. It looked like it glowed in the dark too. It was amazing. Then sometime later, after we got back from the bay, we went to a pool hall in the center of town where everyone was playing pool. This was pretty much the only time I actually played pool. We were out until about midnight, and pretty much everyone except for me was drinking. And one of them was so under the influence that she went the wrong way back to the hotel. The next morning, we were set to leave for our last stop on the trip, where we were to spend the last 2 days of the trip. I ran into the girl from North Carolina, and I spent a little time with her before the class checked out of the hotel. We exchanged addresses, and I said goodbye to her, and I found out that she would be leaving Puerto Rico the same day that we would be, and that she would also be leaving from San Juan, which was their next stop. So there would be a very good chance I would see her again before I left. Our next stop was the town of Aguadilla. This was more or less the only stop on the whole trip where not too much happened. The hotel we stayed at in Aguadilla was even bigger than the 2 previous hotels we stayed at. That night, when everyone else was doing God knows what, I hung out in the lobby writing a letter until I tried to go back to my hotel room, only to find that my roommate locked me out. Apparently, ever since he got turned down by that girl on the trip, he had still not resolved his issues and was sleeping a lot, and it got to the point where everyone was not too happy with him. With great reluctance, and since I couldn't get a spare key to my room, I ended up spending the night in a hotel room with some of my female classmates. And before you ask, nothing happened. I slept on the floor. By the next morning, everyone was pretty much beached out, and as it turned out, I was the only one who ended up going to Crash Boat Beach with my Spanish teacher and her family. I remember Crash Boat Beach for 2 reasons. 1, that there was a whole bunch of beach dogs there, and 2, I ran into 2 beautiful girls on the beach that didn't really understand English, so that was kind of awkward, especially since I was tripping over myself trying to practice my Spanish on them. And that was kind of ironic since Spanish was one of my best subjects in high school. Go figure. But I did manage to get their addresses, so it wasn't a total loss. Then there was also the fact that my Spanish teacher's husband managed to talk me into buying a beer. The rest of that day was spent going to shopping centers in Aguadilla, and then with me taking a walk up a hill to Little Caesars to get a pizza. The distance from my hotel to there was about the same as the distance from my house to the Little Caesars near where I live. And that was the first time I ever had Little Caesars. Then later, everyone gathered in the bar for a celebration of our last night in Puerto Rico before we went home. The next morning was not good weather-wise. It was raining, which kind of bookended the trip. We arrived in Puerto Rico when it was raining, and now we were going to leave Puerto Rico, and it was raining. We were supposed to go to a cavern on the way back to San Juan, only to find that they canceled the tour on account of the weather. So instead, we stopped off at a shopping center, and then we went to the Bacardi rum factory, where once again, the advantage of being the legal drinking age in Puerto Rico served me well. Because I was the only one who got to sample the rum, they mixed it with Coke, so that was the only time I had rum and Coke. It wasn't bad, but I actually liked the factory tour. Then half an hour later, it was off to the airport to board the flight back to New York. And true to my word, I did run into the girl I met in Parguera, who was waiting for a flight to Atlanta. So I talked to her again briefly, and when I was waiting for my flight, at that point I didn't really want to leave Puerto Rico. But then again, if I did stay, I wouldn't be here writing this story now. Unfortunately, we didn't really keep in touch over the years. Story of my life. But I will never forget that girl as long as I live. And so the whole class got on the flight back to New York and life went on. So this is about as close to a coming-of-age story as you're probably going to get from me. My experience in Puerto Rico to this day is probably one of the best experiences of my life to date. I hope to go back someday when I can afford to, but I can rest knowing that for those 10 days in the spring of 1996, I had found paradise. And there you have it, the true story of my trip to Puerto Rico. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to click like and subscribe and bang the bell and all that good stuff. I'm Black Hat Loner, and I will see you next time. Same Black Hat time, same Black Hat channel.